Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. I'm PJ.
And I'm Mike.
And we have more reviews coming at you today. Last week, if you remember, we reviewed The Penguin, which was a DC Comics show on HBO Max, or just Max now. This week, we're going to have another Max DC Comics show review with Creature Commandos, which is written and produced by James Gunn. And Mike is going to review Squid Games 2, which is a Netflix exclusive. So we have some more reviews coming at you. They'll get rated according to our new patented Cool Kids Lunch Table lunchtime ranking system. So you'll get some more rankings for these shows. And I think we're going to start with the Squid Games, which I have not seen, Squid Games Season 2, but Mike has watched it, and he's going to walk us through what it's about and how he felt about it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. PJ. Yeah, folks, I'm really excited to talk about Squid Game Season 2. I loved the first season. It reminded me of a lot of if you call back to one of my favorite episodes of ours, our favorite foreign films is a movie called Battle Royale, which is a Japanese film. It's kind of like the Hunger Games, and this is a story that's been kind of told many a time. This kind of theme. This is a Korean produced show. And obviously back in 2021, the first season, which seems like almost like a lifetime ago. The first season came out. Just to give the folks idea what happens is, basically it takes place where the main character, his name is Song Ji-hoon. He's like this guy down and out, gambler, has tons of debt, and this mysterious man comes up to him and challenges him a game of I can't pronounce the game, but it's like a Korean game. It's like a gambling game. And basically gives him a card, says, meet me in this spot, and you can enter this game. Long story short, he gets kidnapped, and he's inside this game where you and other 500 participants play in a game of life or death, and last man standing gets the money at the end, which comes out to 30 million. So I'm not going to do a complete recap of the first season, but just to kind of get you up to speed. So basically, our main character won Squid Games last season. He won the whole shebang, but along the way, he had obviously other people had to die. He ends up going up his best friend. I mean, it was an awesome show, and the show deals with a lot of obviously a lot of people like it because of the action and the death sequences and that kind of horror, that type of like off the wall kind of horror. But the show has a lot of like symbolism about capitalism, corruption, that power conflict theory. People are, the New World Order kind of thing, having the
New World Order, you say? I have them on my shirt.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That whole thing, I guess you could, people kind of, the rich taking advantage of the common man and having them participate in these games kind of thing. So it does a lot of that gambling debt in general. And people are so desperate to get out of debt that they'll
do anything.
Exactly. So that's what the show's really about. A lot of themes.
Season 2, different main character, right?
No, same main character.
Same main character. Oh, okay.
So it starts off right where it left off in the first one, where like after he wins his whole thing, there's a lot of sense of guilt because he basically has blood money. He decides at the very end of the first one that he goes, I'm going to use this opportunity instead of just moving on my life. I'm going to shut these games down. This is crazy. Okay. It's a secret thing. So this takes place 3 years later, right? It focuses on our main character. Like I said, Seong Jin-hoon. They use their Korean names. Basically, for folks, this is number 4, 5, 6, the main character of the last season. He's each participant goes by a number. Anyway, like I said, he decides that he wants to go and use his money to actually shut these games down. So what he does is he hires his own crew of like, you consider them mercenaries, and basically says, look, 3 years ago, these guys think this guy's nuts. Like, look, this guy's paying us to, basically he wants to find the recruiter, the guy who originally gave him the business card. So he has these hired guns, basically just kind of go to each subway station. Kind of just think of it here in America. Just imagine you hire people to hang out in subway stations, just looking for this one dude. And he says, look, he's going to wear a suit. He's going to be playing this game of we'll say cards, just to make life easy here. And then you're going to see him pay and even smack the person. Like, that's the dude. So this is going on for months, years. He's been trying to do this. Where the plot picks up is his I guess you could say his henchman, whatever you want to call him. He's not a gangster or anything like that. They find the guy. They find the recruiter.
Okay.
So that kind of gets us in this wild goose chase to kind of finally meet up with this dude. And from there, I guess the other side story of the second plot line, continuing from the first one, is he's a cop and his brother disappeared and he thinks he's a part of this game. He's part of this island, which we find out in the first one his brother is a part of the game. And in the last episode of the last season, he ends up getting shot by his own brother. He finds him, and his own brother shoots him. He lives, and his body washes up on shore. And now this detective, um, everyone thinks he's kind of off the wall. Like, yo, bro, everyone's like, look, there is no secret society where they're, having people play games. Da da da. He kind of goes back to like be like a traffic officer. Long story short, he's training a new guy to be, a new officer, and they pull over Mr. 456, who's in pursuit of that recruiter. So they kind of, destiny has it, they
Right.
both link up. So long story short, those two connect and they decide, hey, let's work together to find this island where they're hosting these games to shut it down once for all. This guy wants to find his brother, which we, the audience, knows that his brother actually helps run the games, So that kind of gets the wheels in motion. So, and of course, our main character, spoiler alert, yeah, he participates in some of the in the games, but you already saw this in the trailer. They do red light, green light, and he tells the folks, "Hey, you're gonna actually get killed, so follow, my command," and anyway, the whole group starts to say, well, how do you know all this? And he says, well, I won this game already. And they're like, why are you here? And where it goes into conflict, which is a part of the show, is where some people are like, well, I want to participate. I don't care.
Right.
Like, I want this money. I'm willing to do it. So that's kind of where the show kind of just takes off. And like I said, each episode, there's only 7 episodes, and it just flows. Like, for me,
Are they hour-long episodes?
yep. I'm not going to spoil anything, like, in terms of what happens. Of, yes, obviously people die, blah blah blah, but I just love the first episode is awesome. Really intense, super. I love the character of the recruiter. For folks who are familiar, he's the one, like I said, has a briefcase, and he's such a cool dude. Um, I can honestly say from that point on, the show just kind of just doesn't let off the gas. You could argue like maybe the second episode is a little bit slow, but that's just really a lot of setting up and plot. It's
Right.
things going and how they get back to the island and da da da. You know, um,
This is a show made in Korea, right? It's not.
yeah,
This is a foreign show that Netflix just happened upon, and
yep,
they're like, we should put this on our network. People are going to
yep,
like it.
yep.
But it wasn't this season. Squid Games 2 wasn't specifically made for Netflix, right? It was the people who made Squid Games in Korea were always going to make a season 2. It's not like it's financed by Netflix or anything like that.
Well, from what I researched was that I heard about this a while ago because the guy who wrote it and directed the first one, Hwang Dong-hyuk,
Mhm.
um, he basically wrote the first one by himself. And for me, I think Peter, you and I are both the same. Like, we're kind of the same thing. Like, this is like our dream is to make movies for a living, make
Right.
music for a living,
Yep.
be something creative for a living. So this is a guy who obviously went to school for, pursued it from writing, and he basically said, like, look, when you write things, you don't have a crystal ball. He didn't think this was going to become the
Become a
phenomenon
huge
that it
thing.
was,
Right.
right? So what happened was he was a little overwhelmed with the first one, and basically Netflix said, like, yo, we want to make a second you got to keep this going. And he's like,
Right.
look, I'm not opposed to that, but he was a little overwhelmed. So he basically, this is a lot of directors do this too. He basically says, well, if I'm going to do another one, I want you guys to help. I want you to produce one of my other films first, and then I'll do a second
Okay.
season. So I don't want to just be known for doing the Squid Games
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
So he pigeonholed, which was smart. And he also said that
Do we know what the other thing was?
no, honestly, I couldn't find anything.
Hmm.
They probably have the. I honestly
Maybe
did.
it's not even out yet, for all we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as they produced it, I guess, which just
Right.
makes sense. Scorsese does that.
Yep.
Christopher Nolan
Mhm.
does that. They do that all the time. That's very Spielberg does it. It's
Yeah.
very common. They do one for the studio, you do one for me. One for the
Yep.
studio, and then you do one for me. So, um, anyway, what happened was he felt obviously he felt a little bit overwhelmed, like I said, but smart guy. You wish you had people like him, doing Star Wars or Marvel. Well, he says, well, look,
Right.
I have no problem doing another season, but I want to do it with other writers who can help me and other directors. I need help doing this. This is a huge task, and I can't do it all alone. So I give him respect for even,
Just saying that, yeah,
yeah,
because
which is cool.
a lot of
And
people won't say that, and they'll
right,
just
hmm
put out something on their own, and then it
yeah,
becomes not as good because they took on something they didn't have the resources or time to do,
yeah,
and the end
mhm,
result is a crappy movie, a crappy TV show that you
yep,
can tell didn't get the care that it needed to be good. So it's good that he did come out and say, I could do another season of this, but not on my own.
yep,
And it's good that he would say something like that.
yeah. And I think it's also admirable too, which was smart. And I feel like a lot of shows suffer from this, where he goes, I'm only doing like a limited series. I'm not doing this ongoing. So it's
Yep.
only, and this isn't a spoiler. It's only three seasons. There's by the end of the last episode, it tells you there is a final season. That
Okay.
is it. That's the whole shebang. Do I think this writer director Huang Dong Hyuk, will he kind of outsource it and someone makes a prequel to how the game started? Probably, I wouldn't
Probably.
be surprised. But for him, in his own mind, like, I did my thing, or
Right.
maybe he'll have the integrity. No, this is it. This is a shebang. But that's fine. I cast no judgment. I'm proud of this man, and I love how he said, "This is it." Like, he made a deal. I give you 3 seasons. I want to tell you a complete story, and not have a Dragon Ball Z or a,
Right.
other shows that
That
go
go on
on,
forever.
and that just seems so
Yep.
unnecessary and bored. So anyway, the show starts going, and like I said, I'm not gonna get too much into plot. Like I said, we kind of look. I'm not. It's not a repeat of the first season. No way. Yes, do they play childhood games to the death? No question. However, it is, for me, you really feel the stories continue, because in this thing, it's like he's the main character. Mr. 456 says, I want to shut this game down. You feel that, like I said, his partner, I guess you could say, the detective, the brother, not his brother, the brother of the games. They hire mercenary, and they're trying to find. It's basically like trying to find like a needle in a haystack. They're trying to find this island. They got drones
Right.
out, all this crap. Um, but yeah, so a lot of people, I'm sure, maybe those who aren't familiar with Squid Games and how it works, I guess some of the mythology is, so after, like I said, each person is worth money, right? So every single time after each game, the money in the bank increases, right? So if there's one last man standing at the end, the person gets 30 million. So I'm not a mathematician here, but each person is worth so much
Mhm.
money. Um, so, however, after every game, they have like a meeting, like, oh, we're gonna vote. Do you want to end the game or have the games going? And everyone wants either yes or no. So if you have the right to leave, you can't leave unless a majority wins. So when you go there, that's it. You either
Right.
leave either in a body bag, or you win the whole shebang, or the majority of the group says no. So this is something. This is not a spoiler here. Yeah, they vote. Yeah, and obviously the games continue. So it's pretty cool. Those moments of the show are awesome, because you're seeing their voting and you see who switches and all that kind of stuff. It's so cool. Um, what kind of happens? Um, I think one of the things I really like about this show is the characters. The main character, he's cool. He's kind of, this season he's a little bit more tough, a little bit more grizzly,
Mhm.
But just like the first season, where you had like the gangster guy, you had the annoying woman who wouldn't shut up. You couldn't wait till she died.
Right.
Yeah, like the I guess like somewhat of the love interest of the main character. In this one, you have a pregnant woman. Um, she's there. Her boyfriend or ex-lover is there. They both realize they both happen to be there.
Hmm.
They're both desperate for money. So one, the I'll say ex-husband, he's or ex-boyfriend. Um, there's a lot of talk of crypto in this show too. How crypto is kind of bogus, and a lot of the people are in there from debt because of crypto money. So those two have their own dynamic. Obviously, she wants nothing to do with him, but they kind of somewhat team up. Like I said, she's the only pregnant character. So, um, in the show, there's also a mother and son duo. Probably a mother like in her 70s, and her son's about in his 30s, late 30s. So they have a really cool dynamic, and how that works out in certain games. Um, is like an older, stately kind of man, probably like in his 60s, where he's not like in the first one. That guy was like very old and
Hmm.
decrepit. This one is like, you know, you don't really get much background, but I assume like he's probably like a businessman or a
Right.
lawyer type. So, but he's like very bright. He's good. There's a very spiritual, like wacko psycho woman. She kind of replaces the one from the first season who you find irritating. This one's a little bit more, I'll say tamer, but she's more like spiritual. She thinks the games are like this, some kind of
Right.
destiny to participate in it. And then you have probably the fan favorite. Well, in the show he plays a YouTuber, rapper. His name's Thanos. Actually, he has purple
Oh,
hair. His hands, his nail polish is like different colors on each
like the
hand.
stones.
Yep, exactly. And he's just off the wall. He's crazy. He has like a crucifix that has like drugs in it. I'm assuming it's like some kind of LSD or Molly. So before he participates in the game, he
Getting
takes
high.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he's hilarious to watch. And in real life, um, I guess in Korea, South Korea, this is where this is made. They have very strict rules, laws, I should say. So like, um, he was kind of like in the band like One Direction. There, he was like a pop star. Then he went solo, kind of like a Justin Timberlake, and then he got in trouble for actually smoking marijuana. He got caught, and that's like a big no-no there. That's almost like a death sentence. So like, he basically got canceled. You know what I mean? And then he became a, you know, uh, things getting into like opiates, opioid addiction. So anyway, his character is almost his character in real life. It's very kind of like meta. So
Huh.
anyway, the guy is totally a talented actor. I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks into more American roles, just like this. The main character, Mr. 456. I don't have his name written down, but he was in the Star Wars show. I think the Acolyte. I think one of those. He was one of the
That
um,
was that
uh,
guy.
one of the Jedi's. I don't know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
he
yeah,
is, but
yeah. I know exactly who. I did not realize
yeah,
until you
it's him.
just said it that was him. But now that you've said it, huh,
Yep, that's him. So I wouldn't be
wow,
surprised if this guy, Thanos, comes more,
right.
he's a looking guy, that whole thing. So
Hmm.
tough, tons of charisma. I mean, when he's on, and then he's a despicable character. You hate him, but you love him because he's just,
Right.
stirs the pot. He's a maniac and he's hilarious.
I did not realize that he was in that was the guy from Squid Games in the Acolyte
Yep.
until you just said it. But that is wild. Wow.
Yep, he's
Huh.
really good. He steals the show. He really is. He's a really fun character, and he has like his own like, I guess you could say, his two little henchmen that he kind of bullies to like participate in the game with him. And
Right.
the show does a really good job of like, if you were in this say a game like this, like you kind of bully people, hey, you better vote or I'm gonna kill you.
Right.
So some people are kind of meek and desperate, and so they really do a good job with that. I also want to highlight because there's another character who is transgender. Now, in the show, there's a character. It's a male to female. In real life, this person is not really. They're playing a role who is transgender.
Mhm.
And in the show, they're a former soldier. Basically, um, this character is participating in the games because they need money for surgeries and they want to start a new life because where they live, they've been shunned and
Right.
such. But the reason why I also want to bring it up because I feel this has been political, but I think whether it's Disney movies or other movies in general, where they feel like they insert these characters and it kind of feels very forced and
Yep.
very woke. And I can honestly say, True Blue, that this character does not feel it. Does not feel. It feels very natural to a story. Like this person's desperate to being in there. They don't like make them like all powerful or they treat them as if any other character. This character happens to be transgender. And
Right.
that's it. Um, if anything, I think this show does a really good job of keeping it real with the character, meaning like if you met this person in real, let's say this real life person, you met them, they kind of tease them like, hey, like, you know, you move to Thailand next, and like they do like they're not like, and they get along. There's like a camaraderie there, so nothing it feels very natural if you were to meet this person in real life. So they do a really good job of just like not like over promoting them.
Right.
There's no like virtues, nothing like that. It just seems like it fits perfectly into this world, and why this character is so desperate. Um, and yeah, the show is just really great. Like I say, each episode gets more and more intense. Like I said, the theme of this season, like the first season was that guy surviving the game and ultimately winning. This one is really more about this season basically sets up the third season, the final season. But this one is fine as it doesn't feel like just filler. It feels like complete story. Um, because he wants to kind of while within the games he's kind of trying and plotting to kind of somehow break out of the game and get to the front office, the main office, and
Right.
shut it down. So that's kind of what happens. So it's really cool. So this one's definitely more. Where the first one's more kind of like they do have the horror of the games, but this one's more action in it. There's more like gun battles and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty intense.
I felt like in the original Squid Games, and I didn't watch all of it.
Yep.
But I always felt like the main guy shouldn't have won. He should have died in that last episode. Because I don't know. It just felt too convenient that the guy you've been watching the whole time is the one that wins. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean? It kind of feels like, and I like that there's a second season, and now that guy's coming back to stop it to make more story out of it. But I think in the first season, if the main guy would have died, and somebody else who was maybe a side character or a small part that you really
right.
spent
Hmm.
no time with would have been
Hmm.
the person to win.
Right,
I think that would have made it feel more, almost more realistic to what may happen if something like these Squid Games was a
right,
real thing.
right.
That someone anyone could win. I always felt that about the first one, but I do like that they're in the, from what I haven't seen any of the second one, but
Hmm.
the way you're explaining it, I like that they're giving this guy more to do because of his win, and
Yes.
it's not just like drop him in for another Squid Games or,
Yeah, exactly.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean. I
exactly.
it
Hmm.
sounds like they did a good job with the writing on it, because I
Hmm.
really thought he should have been dead by the end of the first season.
Right. No, I think that's a fair point. And my answer to that is I think it came down to the writer director of the show. He probably didn't realize if he would have known that he was going to get signed for more seasons, so this be a huge phenomenon. He probably wouldn't have done that. For him, he's
Yeah,
probably like, I think he probably was like, oh, I really like this character. I want them to win, kind of thing. This is not gonna get a
right.
second season. He did not. If he would have known, if he had a crystal ball, I think he probably would have done what you've done in terms of
Yeah,
a writing thing. But for him, it was like, this is my story. You know, it got produced. That's awesome, and
right.
this is it. He thought it was gonna be like a one and done kind of thing. If he would have known it, would I think he would have probably done that if he had a time machine.
Yeah.
Um, but they do a really good job of continuing the storyline. And I don't have much to say. I just want to talk about other things I just love about this show in general. I love the use of color in the show in terms of the pinks, the pastels. You don't really see much color anymore in American films. Besides like Pixar films or Disney films where
Hmm.
there's so much explosion of color. Everything nowadays I feel like just has that orange filter
Yep.
that especially like more like the Marvel films kind of have that kind of orange tone. Or if it's a science fiction, they slap either that blue tint or that green tint over it. You know, um, or sometimes I even feel like just like, well, especially with a lot of American films, and I feel like almost it's too HD. Where like I feel like sometimes the Lord of the Ring films, sometimes they almost, especially like the newer ones, like the
Yeah.
prequels, they there's I kind of like that film grade. Sometimes that kind of gives the movie some kind of character. Like even a movie
Sometimes
like
if it's too high def,
yeah,
there's a term for it. I forget what it is, but something becomes too high def that it almost looks cheesy in a way.
yeah, it doesn't look
It's like
almost like
that's looks like that soap opera effect they call it, whatever.
yes, mm-hmm,
It's like you're so in there. I don't know. Sometimes, yeah, I don't need to see every pore on someone's face when I'm
yes. Mm-hmm.
watching it. Like it takes you out of it.
Yeah, so I really kind of like the show has like the use of just color and it doesn't really feel like there's like a tint to it and it's shot in HD, all that crap. It doesn't feel
Right.
like you know, um. But yeah, I love use of music. Obviously, the theme song, the dee 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 dee. I'm not doing it well, but they use a lot of classical music in this too to kind of, you know, right before they game, usually put on some classical music, which is I really enjoy. Um, Other thing I love about too, I just find this really common, like in I guess I'll say maybe like Asian culture. Let's incorporate like Chinese, Japanese, like their use of comedy. Like even like
Hmm.
like a show like the animes, like Dragon Ball Z, or even like the more intense shows. Like there's always like a sense. They always have like a sense of like comedy in it, and this show does that too. Where I feel like they go like, yeah, the show's off the wall, it's intense, but there's some levity to it, and I really appreciate that. So, I really enjoy that. This show is definitely binge watchable. I mean, I was sick, when last week, so I watched like 4 episodes in one day. I had a really bad cold, and I finished the next day with my wife. But yeah, it's totally the episodes flow when you're done with one episode, you want to get to the next one. Um, like I said, this kind of like you said, PJ, this is not a repeat of the first season when you see the guy back in the games again. Like this one has a different drive. He wants to stop the games, and he just kind of like the first, he's unwilling participating but his
Right.
ultimate goal now is not to win, it's to shut the games down. So that's what we're kind of saying. Like I said, just the moral dilemmas, the twists and turns, characters you hate, characters you love. Um, And the thing is, I wanted to do this I wanted to rewatch the first season before I watched this one, but there's an option. When you put on Netflix, it's going to show you the English dubbed.
Hmm.
And the voice acting is fine. It's great. I don't have an issue with it, but I really always wanted to watch it with subtitles. Because I think the performances can come out much more
Right.
authentic. Because um I think especially with the last season, the character was very annoying, the woman. I feel like maybe her performance isn't as irritating when she uses her real natural voice.
Right.
She's probably a very irritating character as it is, but some of these people might be overacting because they're trying to mimic the other person's expressions. I'm sure it's very tough,
Right.
doing that. But anyway, I definitely recommend the show. If you're a fan of the first season, you're gonna love the second season. It's just I don't know what else to say. It's a real blast. Do I think it's better than the first season? No. I mean, that's very hard. Most shows aren't like that anyway. The first is usually the best, and this
Right.
is kind of like we said before, this guy probably didn't know it was going to be this phenomenon, and he probably would have maybe set things up differently with the story, but he didn't know that. So that's kind of just the nature of the game. So in terms of our rating system, and just to repeat it, folks, we're using a 5-star system, but we use lunch table terms, or items to rate them. So just go over it real quickly. So 5 stars, that's the best score. That's our chicken nugget score. Chicken nuggets. For 4 stars, it's a pizza. Friday pizza. 3 stars is our PB and J. 2 stars is mystery meat, and 1 star is banana peel. And if we need half points, is French fries. And I would give Squid Game 2 a pizza and French fries. 4.5. Yep.
That is high ranking.
Oh yeah, I can't say anything negative about it. You know what I mean? It'd be unfair to. It's really great.
Right.
The only thing negative I could just say is it's not as good as the first, which is unfair. Which is unfair. That's
Right.
just that's
So
not.
would you say then the first season is straight up chicken nuggets then?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you can nitpick things, but that for me, like when you get to nitpicking, I mean, yeah, is anything
Right.
perfect? Is any movie perfect? No.
Right.
And but it's to not give it that score would not be fair. That'd be like, come on, man.
Okay.
you know. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
High
it's really good.
praise. High praise.
hmm So, Mr. PJ, you're doing a show that I'm not even aware of, never heard of. You're doing Creature Commandos.
Yes. Let me take out my notes here. I have them saved on my phone. One moment. Let's see. Where are they? So, Creature Commandos is actually the first thing we're seeing, the first full presentation of a show or a movie that takes place in the James Gunn DC universe.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is in the same universe as the movies will be in.
Oh,
So
okay.
the Superman movie that's coming out, the Brave and the Bold movie, all those things that James Gunn has been talking about, the Green Lanterns TV show, all of that in the same universe along with the Creature Commandos. So this is the first we're seeing. They're going to retroactively fit the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker into the James Gunn DC universe, but
hmm
this is the first thing produced for that universe. Um, Now, a lot of people don't know who the Creature Commandos even are or where they started. So I thought maybe I would just quickly touch on what this
Yeah,
group
sure.
is
hmm
before we get into the actual TV show. The Creature Commandos were created in the 80s. I believe it was 1980.
Hmm.
And they are a, a collection of monsters. I'll use the word monsters. That's not the word they used in the comics, I don't think. That are led by a human, and they're basically used as like a military unit. You don't want to see humans go into these combat scenarios and things like that and have them die, but you don't mind sacrificing a monster or a creature. And
hmm
that's sort of the backstory of what the Creature Commandos is. I believe they were created by a writer, DeMatteis, James Michael DeMatteis, J.M. DeMatteis is his name. He created them. The original lineup is not the lineup from the cartoon. They picked characters that for the cartoon that are more palatable to an audience that might be a little more recognizable. But that's why these were created. That's why these characters exist. They were from the 80s, and it was just really almost a goof, like a horror goof that really caught on.
Mm.
So that's sort of a backstory on what this property is. And then they made the TV show. So I'm going to take out my notes on the TV show here. Here we go. Now,
And what channel is it on?
this
I'm
is on
sorry.
HBO Max or Max,
Oh, it is
whatever
on
they call
HBO.
it.
Wow, wow.
Yeah,
So
this is
the
yeah,
Penguin is on HBO Max,
yes,
and
and
so
so
is
is
this.
this.
Okay.
Yes.
Hmm.
So these are half-hour episodes, not even maybe 20, 25 minutes. They're quick. And I'll just go through some of the cast that's in here. Sean Gunn, Alan Tudyk, David Harbour, Frank Grillo. So people that you've heard of are doing the voices. The reason for this, James Gunn has stated that if he has a cartoon or he has a live action movie or TV show, at any given point, these characters could cross over, and it has to be done by the same actor.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So Frank Grillo um, plays the father of a character that you don't like very much. So you're familiar with the character of Rick Flag, yes?
Yeah.
I know you're not a fan of Rick Flag. Frank Grillo was Rick Flag Senior,
Okay.
is his father, and they talk about a little bit about his son and all this other stuff in the show, but much more likable of a character. Uh,
Hmm.
Nothing at all like the just very unlikable Rick Flag Jr. This is a way better character, and he is the human in charge of the Creature Commando unit.
Right. So,
Uh,
so I
yeah.
understand. So,
Okay.
this character, I mean, like the actor himself. So the guy who does his voice,
Yeah.
if circumstances like that
He's
make
already cast for the Superman movie. He is going to
so
be
if
in the Superman movie.
so he'll be live action. So the person
Yes.
who does the voice for this will do the
Yes.
act live version in both. Okay,
Yes.
that's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think that is a pretty cool idea. I like that a lot because it to me, I think that's a great idea because that also means maybe you get to see these characters do more. Like uh, in the Marvel universe or even the Snyderverse or all these things, you weren't really going to see these characters until they made another movie,
Hmm.
right? You have a Superman movie or you have an Iron Man movie, whatever it is, and that movie ends until they can spend years and years. It takes 2, 3 years to produce another movie,
No, yeah.
especially at the scale of these superhero movies. It takes forever. You can't get a Superman movie in 2025 and get another Superman movie in 2020. You can't. So you
Hmm.
cannot see this character again for a while. Using the same voices for the cartoons means if you make an animated series for Max that isn't maybe a huge property, you could still drop in your Superman and
Hmm.
see that character again, and it'll feel the same. It'll be acted the same. They'll sound the same. I think it's a great idea to really expand the universe and have these characters do more. You could have now an animated something or other that to film in live action would be a tremendous budget is now next to nothing because it's animated. I think it's a great way to extend the shared universe. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I don't know why they've never done it before. I hope it works out because I do think that's one of the best ideas James Gunn has had is use the same
No,
actors
I
for.
like that
I think
idea.
it's great.
Hmm.
Um, so the cast or the characters in the show are the bride, who is essentially the bride of Frankenstein. You have a character GI Robot. Um, that basically what GI Robot is, he is a robot that is a military robot, basically a soldier, but programmed to kill Nazis.
Mm.
There's a character called Weasel. If you watch the Suicide Squad, you know who he is already.
Yeah, yeah.
Weasel is in it. There is a character, Dr. Phosphorus, who is basically a radioactive man. Whenever he touches, is like burned
Yeah.
up, right, from the
Yep.
radioactivity. You'll see a character whose name is Nina, and she is kind of reminds you of remember in Hellboy, what the hell was his friend's name? The fish guy.
Oh, Abe Lair.
Abe Sapien. Abe Sapien.
Mhm.
Kind of reminds you of that. And David Harbour is Frankenstein. Well,
Hmm.
Frankenstein's monster.
Right.
And then you have, like I said, Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr. And they are the Creature Commandos, and they are dispatched to a country, Pakistan. It's not Pakistan, but it's
Hmm.
some sort of a stand. I didn't write down the name of it.
Right.
It's Fakistan. I don't know, whatever it's called.
Right. Right. Right.
And they have to protect the princess there because she is they think she's going to be killed. There's a whole thing. I don't want to go too much into the story, and the reason I say that is this show, the story, the voice acting, the animation, all of it is so great. It would be a disservice to people if I spoiled it and then they didn't go to watch it and see how it unfolds. So the overall storyline, I'm going to be very vague on because I think it should be experienced
Right.
while watching it.
Real quick. So is each
Yeah,
episode like is it one whole story, or is each
it's
episode its own separate
it
thing?
is it is one whole story, but the way that they do it is while it continues the story that you're watching, it also focuses on one particular creature commando. So like you'll have an
Uh.
episode where it's progressing the story, but they'll show you the backstory of the bride. They'll show you the backstory of Weasel, all of the stuff, right? So it all connects as one long story with each character getting a spotlight weaved into it. It's done very well. Um, so yeah, they get dispatched to this country, and you find out that this princess that they're protecting, um, they're trying to assassinate her. And who's trying to assassinate her? It's um, an evil Amazonian, no, Themyscirian, right from the Amazon,
Right.
like Wonder Woman. Her name is Cersei. She's like I think she's been in other cartoons and stuff, but she's an Amazon. She has purple hair, and she's like a sorceress, like an evil
Hmm.
magic user who's also from Themyscira and is an Amazon. And she's like the villain, and they're trying to get to her, and that's sort of why they're there. They have to protect the princess. Um, what you get through this is a series of misfits. These creature
Hmm.
commandos. This is not the Justice League where they're this larger than life. It's Batman, it's Superman, it's
Hmm.
Wonder. These are people that are expendable. No one cares about them. They're locked up in a facility because they're just monsters. It's almost if you took the Suicide Squad.
I was gonna say, how are
Yeah,
they different from the Suicide Squad?
the reason they're different is because they're not human,
Hmm. And
and
they're not necessarily prisoners, right? Or
they're in a facility. They're basically locked up but the idea of it is Amanda Waller can't sacrifice humans anymore, right? You can't just even though they're bad and they're in prison or they're in Arkham or whatever. You can't just take this person because they were a bad guy that Batman locked away and put them into a scenario where they're going to get killed for some. So these monsters, these creatures, are basically are less than human,
mm,
right? Expendable. No one cares about these people. They're not human. They don't look like me. They don't act like us. That they're monsters. Who cares what happens to them? If they die, that's no big loss to the world. Like that's
hmm,
the feeling about these characters. So you're already rooting for them when you go in because you're like, well, all right, fine. So she's a fish monster. She's a fish lady. Why doesn't she have any purpose? She doesn't seem evil. She doesn't seem bad. GI robot, like, yeah, he's a robot, but he fought in World War II. Like he's not an evil robot. He was in the army, right?
yep,
Why did no one care about someone that was defending the country in World War II? They even though they do bad things, they have a lot of redeeming qualities, but the feeling of them not mattering, they don't matter, uh, encompasses the whole show, and you start to feel for these underdogs. Like you want to see them win, especially when you start seeing the backstory of them. So you find out that the backstory for GI Robot, right? Just as an example, I'll use his
hmm,
episode. So I think the GI Robot episode is maybe the best in the entire series. Is maybe the GI Robot. Like I said, he's a robot that was programmed to kill Nazis during World War II, and they show a lot of flashbacks, right? Um, of him just being with a unit in the army. And at first, they're like, he's just a robot. No one's treating him like a person. He's just there to be a Nazi killer. And he winds up like saving the lives of the entire unit that he's with when they get attacked by the zombies. And they show exactly how powerful this robot is. And then they realize that like he did that and he saved them. He's one of us. He's not just a robot.
mm,
And from that point forward, while he's in the army in the war, he is treated as a human, even though he's not. They take him to the bar. They get him like oil for instead of
Yeah.
drinking beer, right? He's drinking oil to like lubricate, whatever it is, right? Like that kind of stuff. And you really start to see him not as a robot, but as a
Yeah.
hero. And then the war ends. And what do you do when the war ends with the robot who's only designed to kill Nazis?
Yeah.
They basically shut him down, right? They just depower him. And he doesn't have any facial expressions because he's just a metal robot. His
Yeah.
face doesn't move. The way they design him and the way they light it, there are times it looks like he's smiling. There are times it looks like he's sad. There are times, you know, the face never changes.
Right.
It's all in the lighting. It's all in the, the tone
Yeah.
of the feeling. They do such an excellent job with the way they animate it that it's sad when they power him down.
Mm.
And then this is the only episode I'm really going to spoil because it's so great. Um, then he gets like found, like I don't know, like at an auction, like they're auctioning off whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah.
buys the GI robot essentially, and they power him back up, and you get to like the character that buys him. You're like, oh, this guy's, he sees this guy used to be a hero. He brought him back. He's being his friend. It's his friend now. They talk about war stories. He lets him tell all these things, and you see that the robot is now bonding with this human again, and he starts to come back to life, and you start to see a little more joy in him. The twist of that episode is that the guy who buys GI Robot, he turns out to be like a neo-Nazi.
I knew it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
so now there's this whole thing where they bring him to like a clan meeting or whatever you want to call it. He realizes what's happening. The robot, his prime directive, if you want to call it that, however you want to say it, kicks in. He realizes he has to kill everybody. So he kills
Yeah.
all of these Nazis, right? And from the perspective of a viewer, right, the audience, we're like, yeah, kill those Nazi sons of bitches.
Yeah.
But in terms of what happens in the show, right, if it was real, this robot just murdered a room full of people who, yeah, they were shitty people, hadn't actually done anything. The robot now has to get sent to like this prison or whatever, and that's how he becomes part of the creature commandos. They need someone to go on this mission, and here's someone with military experience.
Yeah.
So that, like, the way they write it, you feel so badly for this robot. It's done so well. And I love it because it's like unfortunately, when you look at history, war heroes, right? Army heroes that have gone to war come back and get treated not well, right? Even though they should be. And you see that through the scope of this robot, and you see him befriend other people on this creature commandos team. Especially Nina, the Abe Sapien like character,
Yeah.
becomes very close with her throughout the course of the season. And I won't spoil the ending of the episode or anything else like that, but it's done so well. Really, really high praise for that episode. Like, I could see this animated series. I don't know if it's up for any awards. I could see it getting like, I don't know if there's an Emmy or a Golden Globe for like best animated series.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
there is, like, this should be up for it. It's so well done. And then each character has an episode like that where there's one about the weasel, there's one about the bride, and there was one about Frankenstein, all of that, right? But the end of the day, it's all about them having to save this princess. The Frank Grillo's character, Rick Flag Sr., like I said, way better than the character of Rick Flag Jr. He winds up having a very intimate relationship with the princess they're trying to save, and that becomes a plot point. They do not hold back on language. They do not hold back on what you see. They straight up bang it out on that TV show. And
Wow.
they show all the stuff. They don't hold back. It's, even though it's set in the universe, this DC Comics universe, which is usually accessible for everyone, this is a show for a mature audience, or however they want to say it. You just vanished off my screen. I don't know if you're still there.
No, I'm still there.
Oh,
My
there
cat. My cat
Oh,
is.
okay. He wants to be part of the show.
Yes. But no, Peach, I think you sold because I have HBO Max and I really want to see it. I'm gonna take the time to see it now. Yeah, I'm intrigued.
I think you will love it. The writing on this show is top notch. The acting, sometimes when it comes to an animated series or a cartoon, if it's not written well and it's not voice acted really well, it's hard to connect to the character because you're not really seeing them.
Yep.
The animation is beautifully done. The story is beautifully written. The characters are so likable, and they make monsters feel relatable in a way. Um, the violence and the action, 10 out of 10. Like like I said, they hold back on nothing. Um, it really is, and this is again, I always say this when we talk about comic book movies and TV shows, right? Comic books have existed for a long time. There are concepts that if you stick to essentially the core idea of them, they will be successful, as goofy as it may seem. A group of monsters, a robot that fights Nazis, you know, a a weasel that bites
Yeah.
people's faces off, a guy that's just completely radioactive. Like these are concepts that sound goofy, sound funny, and they
Yeah.
are, but you treat it seriously based on how it's written. Batman is a goofy concept. It's a guy that
Yeah.
has pointy ears and dresses up like a bat,
Mhm.
but it works, especially when you follow what's already been laid out. And I think this is another example of like follow what the comics have given you, take some liberties, make some changes for sure, to make it, you know, more palatable for a wider audience, but don't change the meaning behind it, and you will be successful. This is a great example of that. You watch this show, you're gonna feel like James Gunn is gonna make a great DC universe. There are some flashes of the Justice League, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. You don't hear them, you don't really see them. They're just like brief little shots and during flashbacks and other stuff. Um, with the designs that you're going to see from them eventually in the movies, like the if you see Superman for 2 seconds, it's a lot. It's just a quick vision,
Yeah.
but it's the Superman costume that we just saw in the trailer. Like they make sure it's part of it, and it's you're immediately invested in this James Gunn DC universe because of shows like this. The Suicide Squad
Hmm.
was so fun to watch, right?
Yeah. That was.
Yeah,
Yep.
Rick, it was great. Some characters suck, right? We don't like Rick Flag. I get it, but that universe, like when you see Starro, like you can't help but be like, that's the Starro from the comic books, and I love this. It's so ridiculous that it works. Or I don't know if you watched Peacemaker,
No. No.
um,
No. No.
but again, when you watch that show, there's a sense of fun. It's but also serious and dark at the same time. Well written. You get the idea that James Gunn is not holding back. He wants this to be better than Marvel. I almost feel like watching everything we've seen from James Gunn so far,
Mhm.
it is a giant fuck you to Marvel for what they did to him after Guardians 2.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
This is like, yeah, he finished his trilogy with Guardians 3, but he is saying fuck you to Marvel. You never should have treated me the way you did, and I'm going to make sure that this DC universe crushes you. And is
Yeah.
and he is dialed in. He is on point, getting everything right. Um, Definitely watch it. I'm curious to see what you think. I would recommend this to anyone who loves comic books, anyone who loves good animation. Um, it it's a story of underdogs, and that's always fun to watch.
Hmm. Nice. And I have my two last questions for you, PJ. My
Yeah,
first one is this show better than the Batman Cape Crusader, the one we actually did a review of that? That was like I guess the revamp of
yeah.
the Batman.
Is
Is
it?
it better than that one? Hmm.
Yes, 1,000% better. And I love that Batman Cape Crusader. I thought it was great. It's tough to compare them because it is a completely
Yeah. Yeah.
different vibe of a
No.
show.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If I could only watch one, if you said I could pick which was going to get a sequel, a second season, would I rather see another Batman Caped Crusader or another season of Creature Commandos? I would pick Creature Commandos for sure. Both are great. This one here, though, really, really
Yeah.
is a better show.
Okay. Cool. Cool. And lastly, what would you give it for a rating?
I would give this show chicken nuggets.
Wow. Okay.
Chicken nuggets. In fact, I don't know. I mean, it's our rating system. We could do whatever we want. I might even give it chicken nugget and fries.
Wow.
It is
Nice.
that good. The nods to things that happen in the comic books, like the Easter eggs they give you, the stuff that it kind of teases for the movies you're gonna see, the quality of the voice acting, the quality of the writing, the sense of adventure, the sense of camaraderie between all of these I don't Misfits. They're Misfits. It's the Island of Misfit
Yep.
Toys, right? It
Mhm.
all works together so well. Um, I I think James Gunn is going to make the best superhero cinematic universe. I If everything is the quality of what we've seen from him so far, I don't see how it can fail. If it does fail, man, is it going to be a disappointment after everything we've seen so far.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, it just kind of goes to show, and we said this dozens of times when it comes to other franchises, when someone who's in charge, I mean, I think everyone has passion, but like they're given the opportunity to do the way they want to do it. They
Yep.
have confidence to, they have the resource to put into it, and they have a clear vision and not just rushing things
Yep.
out. It really makes all the difference. So, um, yeah, but you sold me. I definitely want to check it out. Uh,
You definitely should. You're gonna love it. I think there's also a really great soundtrack to this.
hmm.
I don't know. I should have. Let me see if I'm gonna Google quick and see if maybe it has on
Like actual
Wikipedia or
like
something.
bands, or is this
Yeah,
original
yeah,
stuff?
like
Like
actual music. Yeah.
okay, so like Guns N'
Um,
Roses, let's say things like that, actual
Let me
artists.
see if I can find it because I'm gonna Google it. They got to have it on the internet. Creature Commandos soundtrack. It's got to be on the internet. Everything's on the internet. Here's the official playlist. So let's see. It's on Spotify. Um, it's got Caravan of Thieves, Dresden Dolls. They're like, again, he picks songs and bands that are like the misfit bands that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
people don't really focus on, and it makes it even better. The Urban Voodoo Machine. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but there are a lot of songs that like when you hear it, you're like, damn, this is next
Yeah, it
level
fits.
song.
Yeah, yeah,
It
it
fits.
enhances. Yeah. Hmm.
It really does. Definitely check it out. 100% recommend it to everyone. Chicken nuggets and French fries rating. Really will get you excited. I think for the next batch of DC projects that we're going to see. I think after this we don't see another DC thing until July. Is that when Superman comes out?
I believe so. Yeah.
So this is
Hmm.
really the last DC thing connected to this universe that you're going to see until July, and it leaves you wanting more. So I think it's a good lead in to what we're going to see in live action.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I really like the idea that they have the same characters do the animation and the
Yeah,
live action. That's great. Yeah, no, it sounds really cool. And while you were speaking, I googled the images. I like how they look too. Just the character designs.
yeah. Uh, Straight from the comics, some of these designs, like the
Hmm.
Frankenstein, the Bride, a lot of them are straight from what they look like in the comics. James Gunn does that. He for this DC universe anyway. Looks like he's trying to be a little more faithful to some of the source material because his Guardians of the Galaxy, I've never been shy about saying I don't love them. They
Hmm.
are,
I only seen the
eh,
first one. I love the first one. Never.
yeah,
I have. I want to see the other ones. Just never gotten
yeah.
a
I mean,
chance.
I've never
Hmm.
been shy about saying I don't love those Guardians movies. They're nothing like the comics. I've never hid that. Like people love those movies. I'm like, eh. But he seems for the DC, he's trying to do something a little bit different, maybe on purpose, so he doesn't feel like he's a one trick pony when it comes to these things. Because
Yeah.
uh, if you do the same thing you did in on Guardians and in Marvel with DC, people will call him out for that. So it's probably by design that he's trying to give things a different vibe, a different feel. Um, but it looks like he's hitting it out of the park.
Yeah. Sensational. So, yeah, so folks, so PJ and I are both recommending Squid Game season 2 and Creature Commandos, and you can see Squid Game 2 on Netflix and Creature Commando on HBO Max. We're not sponsored by them. I'm just letting you folks know where you can
So I
see them.
find it.
We're
Yeah.
not, uh, you know, uh, you know.
If
uh,
Netflix or Max listens to this and wants to sponsor us,
oh yeah, they're
we
more
won't
than
say no. That would be great.
exactly.
Yeah, but right now we're just letting you know where to find the show.
Yep.
Um, they also recently have done a Creature Commandos comic book, and I'm sure it was again by design to release this comic book while the show was going on to try and
Yeah.
oh, I
Of
really like
course.
the show. Maybe I'll read this book. I think that is something they should do more of. It doesn't have anything to do with the show. It's just set in regular DC Comics continuity. Um, it's not even the same cast of people. Uh, but I like the idea of them trying to like capitalize on a popular show with the comics, because they did that trailer of Superman where they show Metamorpho, and the next week a new Metamorpho series started. I like the idea of them trying to bring the movie audience to the comic books. Uh, I love that idea because hopefully it brings more people into the store.
Yeah, of
But I
course.
think it's a great idea to do that. Like you have the comics can be a commercial for the movies, and the movies can be a commercial for the comics. Like, why
Yeah.
not try and bridge those audiences? Marvel never tried to do that. I don't feel like with the movies and TV shows. I like the idea of trying to use both of these mediums to bring more audience to all of your stuff. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think, hey, some people want to make money different ways,
Yeah.
or they feel it's more economical. But yeah, folks, that's it. 4.5. Excuse me. Pizza and a half and fries for Squid Game. 5 chicken nuggets for Creature Commandos. Same time, same table.
Have a good one.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. For more information, visit their website at coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. Follow the boys on all social media platforms. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.